Welcome, everyone, to Dead Talk Live. And tonight we have a four-guest panel consisting of the cast and crew, writer and director of the upcoming movie Red Snow. I want to welcome Dennice Cisneros. I totally butchered your name. Pronounce your last name for me.
Cisneros.
Cisneros. Is that Greek?
It's Mexican, Spanish.
Awesome. We have Nico Bellamy, writer, director Sean Nichols Lynch, and Laura Kennon. Welcome, guys. How are you all doing tonight?
Great. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, doing good.
It is my pleasure.
Also, my last name is actually Kennon.
Sorry, I butchered that. Okay. All right. Off to a bad start. Let's just start over.
You're doing fine.
You're fine.
So I saw the film. I saw it actually twice. I saw it when I got the screener, and then I watched it again earlier on today. So we have a lot to talk about. Before we go into full mode, though, I want to go around the table here. And Sean, we're going to exclude you for this question. I want to ask the cast, what were your feelings before you got this role in regard to the whole vampire genre? So let's start with Dennice.
Oh, I was excited. Like, I really enjoy anything that's goth or just has like some sort of supernatural fantasy, just because it's so open to interpretation, and I just like just watching horror films. And so I didn't really know in the beginning like what vampire genre we were going to be heading into, if it was either going to be like Twilight-esque or we're going to go like super dark, but I felt like this was like a nice comedy and horror mix in, so I was super stoked.
Absolutely. And Sean, I just want to say good job on staying away from the sparkling vampires, Good job on that. So how about you, Nico? I mean, were you a fan of vampire movies and horror in general before you got this role?
Well, I've seen a lot of horror movies. I mean, I knew about vampires. I knew they had fangs. I knew they drink blood. But I hadn't seen a lot of vampire movies before Red Snow. So that was actually an assignment. Sean actually came down and we watched Lost Boys together.
Oh, awesome movie.
And he gave me a list of movies that I should check out. So I did my research before diving into the movie, but before getting cast, I can't say that I had seen a lot.
Okay, that's fair enough. Laura Kennon. How about you? What were your thoughts on the whole vampire genre before you got this role?
Yeah, honestly, I'm really a pansy when it comes to anything scary, so I don't watch scary movies that much. I would say I like The Shining. That's like my favorite. Yeah, but I can handle that. That's more psychological than like So I think for me, I like vampires. I like the variety that we get in vampires. I'm kind of obligated to like vampires because my future husband is Rob Pattinson. So, just had to put that out there. But really, honestly, Sean, this script is what made me like vampires. I like and want to be one. It was so fun to embrace everything about it.
Now, Jackie, your character is a pretty badass, and I'm going to use the term bitchy vampire, for lack of a better term.
I like to say bratty. I feel like
bratty, that can fit too. What did you do to get into that character's mindset?
Honestly, it's going to sound a little dark, but I was bullied a lot growing up. So I know what bitchy looks like. I felt a lot of it. And it was really actually kind of cathartic to play out being on the other side of it and embracing that part of me. I think we all have access to parts of humanity that we would like to think we don't, but we really do. Especially as actors.
Exactly.
So that was I just had fun. Honestly, that's it. It's all about having fun.
Now, Sean, You wrote this, you directed this. Uh, Going back to before you wrote the script for Red Snow, was your writing mainly in the horror realm, or is this something completely new for you?
I'd certainly done a lot of horror, but mostly short films. I'd never done a horror feature. The only other feature that I did was a movie called Prep School, which actually had Nico's brother Ben in it, and I think the it was more of like a twisted drama. But the parts of it that probably worked the best are the parts with Ben's character, where it kind of verges on like psychological horror and like messed up things happening. So that was probably a sign that this is really the sandbox I should be working in.
So, Sean, what was your inspiration for this script for Red Snow? It is it has some comedic elements to it, the very real and scary vampire elements. What was your inspiration to basically putting all this together?
It was funny. It was a lot of things all at once. I had always wanted to do something in sort of the vampire realm, and I'd always been interested in holiday horror, like Christmas horror, Black Christmas, and Silent Night, Deadly Night, and that whole genre. And then just, I had a couple different projects that were in the hopper that just weren't going. And I was sort of hitting a wall getting financing for these different things. And it was around that time that I bumped into Dennice. So Dennice is probably sick of this story because I tell it all the time. But I ran into Dennice when I was visiting LA. And we were sort of talking about things. And I don't know how Dennice felt at the time, but I was certainly frustrated with none of these creative projects really panning out. And so it was around that time that I started to think like I should just write something that you kind of built around Dennice, because I always wanted to work with her. We went to San Francisco State together. And so it was kind of like that was one piece, and then showing it to Nico is kind of who I also knew. It sort of like slowly came together, like all these things that were sort of in the ether, like, oh, it can sort of be all these things. I can make something with Dennice as the lead, and Nico can also, yeah, it can sort of be it can sort of be a two-hander with the two of them, and it can be a vampire movie and a Christmas movie, and also like about this frustrating creative process that I found myself in, since it is about like a struggling horror writer. Not that I'm Olivia, but there's certainly parts of Olivia in me.
Now, when it came to the characters of Olivia, Luke, and Jackie, did you write any part of the script with these guys in mind, or did you go through the whole casting process?
Luke was also like a Nico role. But for Laura, I actually didn't meet Laura until we had an open casting call in San Francisco. That's where both Jackie and the other kind of antagonistic vampire, Brock,
Mm-hmm.
they came from the same casting process. I saw a million Jackies, most of them showing up to the audition in a leather jacket, and Laura was it just made a lot of sense. And my wife Lindsay was the casting director, and she was also vouching really hard for Laura. And so the fact that we both liked her, that it made so much sense. And then once we got her, in a room with these two guys, it was perfect, and sometimes it just works out that way in the casting process.
Absolutely agree. And Laura, your character, Jackie, is a character that this movie needed. And I think you played her to perfection. Perfect blend of that, again, the word bitchiness, or, spoiled bratty, and the vampire in you just came out brilliantly. Now, I want to talk to Dennice and Nico. You guys have this unique chemistry, your two characters on the screen. Before you guys even got started shooting, knowing that the majority of the film is going to be with both of you in the scenes together, did you guys, hang out together, talk to build that chemistry that was brought to us on the screen?
Yeah, I mean, we got together to run lines and work through the script together, but I think also we were careful about getting too familiar before we shot because in the beginning of the movie, we don't really know each other. And, you know, her character is afraid of Luke, and Luke is totally weirded out by her in the beginning. Um, and we kind of felt like there would be a natural progression of that as because we lived together while we were shooting as well. So there was kind of a natural progression of that when we started shooting, although we shot out of order. So we did have to have some notes in the script to be like, okay, like this is how far our relationship has gone at this point. But that kind of developed, I'd say, like as we went, right?
Yeah, for sure. I know like in the beginning we would just talk and hang out. Like for a while that's all we did before actually running lines before shooting the film. And when we were living together, we would just kind of like rehearse like the night before just to run lines, and then it just kind of brought like a camaraderie, and just I felt really comfortable reaching out to Nico and just be like, hey, do you want to just go over this like again, after he just had like a long shoot date, and he was always like willing to work with me. And so thank you for that.
Now, Dennice, your character, Olivia, is a writer who's trying to get published. You're trying to write a book, and like a lot of writers in real life, you get letters back from publishers, rejection letters. But you keep going, and you find Nico, and he sort of serves as an inspiration. We're not going to give away any spoilers here or anything, but when it came to getting into that writer's mindset for your character, was there anything special that you did?
Well, prior to shooting, I was in a writing program for a bit. And so it's kind of funny. I was thinking about it. My husband and we actually bonded a lot because we wrote sketches together. So the scene where Nico and we talk about, it's kind of almost having an interview with a vampire, really.
Yeah.
It's very intimate, and, just going back and forth of, okay, how much do I want your ideas to be influenced on something that I really hold dear to, and where is that willing of compromise? But it's also kind of nice to see how it goes into fruition. And so that kind of helped. And then I also, Sean gave us a list of a bunch of movies for us to watch, and then books. And I try to read as many books as I could. So that helped a lot with the writer perspective.
Now, Nico, the ending shocked me. It really did in regards to your character. When you read the script that Sean presented to you, what were your reactions on how Nico's story was wrapped up?
Well, not to give anything away, but yeah, I mean, Sean sent me the script before I knew I was cast in it.
Okay.
So the way that I was cast was he sent me the script and asked me for notes. And I'm glad I liked it, because maybe I wouldn't have been cast as Luke if I gave a scathing review of the script. But I remember liking that ending a lot, and I think that was one of my favorite parts of the movie.
Yeah, I got to give it to you, Sean. You definitely surprised us. It surprised me. I did not see that coming.
Yeah, I think that it's, this is a movie that deals a lot with these supernatural romance novels. Similar, things like Twilight are in that milieu. It's about a writer of those things. And one of the things that I find comes up in those a lot is that the human character, usually a woman, it doesn't have a ton of agency, and kind of just, the power dynamic is entirely on the vampire or ghost or mummy or whatever. And I thought, just with the power dynamic between the two of them, I thought it would just be a really fun way to sort of flip that. And it has been a polarizing ending, but I think it's awesome that Olivia gets that to kind of flip the script and become the powerful one in the dynamic, especially after it's been sort of seesawing back and forth.
Exactly.
And especially when she, comes to realize who this person vampire really is. I think her not just becoming this passive character at the end, I think is kind of key to what the whole thing's about, and I think Dennice and Nico played that really beautifully.
I agree. Now, Laura, Jackie, when you first read the script and you saw the character that you were cast for, what were your initial impressions of Jackie, and did you have any kind of plan on how to make Jackie your own?
Oh man. I mean, my initial impression on Jackie was that I was going to have a blast playing her. That was a very first thought. I related a little too much, probably in a scary way, to Jackie. And for me, I actually had a lot of fun. I kind of approach every role a little different. And for this one, I did create a pretty extensive backstory. It's not my typical route, but I had so much fun with doing that. Justifying why she is the way she is. It was fun. It was like putting together a puzzle.
Absolutely. Now, Sean, the movie is going to be released December 28th. Is that correct? To theaters?
No, so we basically had our festival run all through the year, starting in back in April, and we've played a lot of really awesome festivals, from Panic Fest, Fright Fest, Genre Blast, New York City Horror Film Festival, and now we're going the VOD route. It's going to be a VOD and DVD.
Well, that's the
on the
wave of
28th.
the future. That's the wave of
Yeah.
the future.
Yeah.
Now, according to some of the research I've done, you guys faced a lot of delays. Was it because of COVID when it comes to the release date?
Well, it was the sort of thing where I wouldn't so much call it delays. We our post-production lasted about a year, I'd say. Maybe even less than that, because we shot most of the movie in February, March of 2020, right before COVID, and then we had one pickup day in September of 2020, so very much in during COVID. But we had an awesome compliance officer for that, and we did it safely. So we didn't really get picture lock until about a year ago, December of 2020. And that's when we started submitting to film festivals. That's when we started doing our sound mix and our color and all of that. And I've been pretty happy with how the trajectory went, because we were able to kind of play festivals all through the year, from starting in April, basically all through the summer into the fall, into the nice Halloween season when everyone, wants to check out horror movies. And now we kind of get this great holiday release, which is kind of perfect for the movie.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
Now, Laura, the movie, like Sean just mentioned, it did its festival run. It's been very well received by critics. Does that surprise you in any way? The reception it's gotten is pretty amazing. Are you at all surprised? I'm sure you're, over the moon happy about it. But tell us your feelings on the reception this film has received at these festivals.
I mean, honestly, when you're on set, and there's just sometimes when you're on a set and you feel the magic that they talk about in movie magic, and ultimately it was for so much focus and dedication. Every single person put in so much into it. I felt that this was going to be well received, just because the energy we put into it was so just pure lust for filmmaking. I'm not that surprised, honestly, that it had the good reception, but I'm definitely over the moon happy.
That's excellent. What about you, Dennice and Nico? What were your feelings on the festival run and the reception this movie got from critics? Let's go with Dennice.
All right. I honestly was surprised of how widely received, or just in general, that people were going to watch it, because I just kind of assumed like, okay, it's going to be like, someone that I worked with in college. It's going to be a fun project and just something for us to like get out there. And I'm kind of glad I didn't know like how big it was going to be, just because I would have just like, oh my gosh, I like all this pressure that I have to, get this right. And just because I was already feeling that way in the beginning, I just didn't want to disappoint anybody. And I'm just so happy with the turnout and the review. So it could have been better. So thank you.
How about you, Nico?
Yeah, I mean, I watched it a lot at home with family and friends, and it's one way to watch it at home, and obviously people you care about and know give you feedback one way. But I took that with a grain of salt because they're all, people that I already know. But I was able to go to Portland and see it live in a theater with a live audience, and seeing their reactions and hearing their reactions and being there was great to see how much people enjoyed it, which was really, really nice to see, because obviously you want to do a good job and entertain people. And I think my takeaway from the reviews is I have a nice list of adjectives that people have used about me, being attractive and being a dreamboat, which I'm now using to lord over my wife and family. So it's been pretty great.
Okay, Nico, let me ask you this. What is it about your character that you really related to in this film?
Man, I have to be careful about that, since he's a 400-year-old murderous vampire.
They're both murderers.
Yeah,
you gotta eat.
We both gotta eat. I don't know. I mean, it's interesting because one of the things, Sean has said is that he kind of saw me in this role from the beginning and wrote it around me. And when I had read the script, especially since I didn't know I was cast yet, I didn't really see much of myself in that character. So I did a lot of research into what someone like that might be like. I think maybe both Luke and I think we're a lot cooler than we actually are. We don't get away with as much as I think we both feel like we do. But that's probably the biggest connection.
Now, Sean, some of the more hysterical parts were Nico's wardrobe, costumes, in the Act 1 of the movie. Was that all part in the script, or was it something that you came up with as you were directing?
Oh, no. I mean, Luke was always supposed to be dressed in Olivia's mom's clothes. Like that was in the very first draft of the script. I mean, and there's a few reasons for that. I mean, one is it just makes sense. Why would Olivia have men's clothes at her house? Like two, it's memorable and crazy, and just not something that you expect to see in a movie like this. And like three is, I just think that horror and drag just are a great. It's that intersection is really fun. It's I mean, like Dragula or Peaches Christ or things like that. I think that's really cool, and and I think that. The one thing that changed a bit was, I think, in the original script, it was kind of dowdier. It was a little more conservative. But Sarah Alex, the costume designer, we got to have like wardrobe fittings with Nico, where he tried on all kinds of different stuff that was basically part of her wardrobe. And when he put on that like big fur coat with the
I
pink
love that, by the way.
Dress, it's like it's like we saw the face of God. Like we were just like, this has to be in the movie. Like Nico looks amazing in this. This is gonna like blow people's minds, and that always gets a response. I've seen this in front of, Nico mentioned like how great it is to see in front of a crowd, but that is a moment that like never fails to like get a response, because I think that that's the moment where people realize like, oh, it's this kind of film. Like I think that that's like a turning point for a lot of people.
Now, Laura, you mentioned that you're not a big horror fan, and you're not alone. You're amazed at how many actors that have starred in horror films are just not fans. They're scared. They're terrified of them. Now that you made a horror film, you were this vampire. Obviously, it's at least I assume it wasn't scary shooting on the set and whatnot. Do you have a different appreciation now for the horror genre? Maybe you could start watching it some more and not be as scared?
I actually can. Yeah, I have a major, especially in terms of like makeup and all of the everything that goes into making it look real. Oh man, I mean, yeah, I'm going to try and watch more. I have to ease into it. I am scared still, but I definitely didn't have any fear on set. But I have a huge appreciation for what they do. Like, tremendous. Yeah.
Now, okay, let's go back to Dennice. Your character is a very relatable, likable character. What was for you the most important characteristic for Olivia that you brought onto the set to make her a likable and relatable character for the viewers?
I just was myself. Like, um, to be honest, I there wasn't just one thing that I thought of. I just was trying to. I mean, I related a lot to her, struggling actor at that point, and just kind of hoping. And when you get it was a lot of self-doubt, and but still being your own cheerleader and still pushing through, and but also that naive gullibleness also brought me back how I was when I was like younger, and still kind of like suppressing, like maybe not getting too excited if like I saw a naked guy or something. Not that I see them that often, but I don't know why I brought that up. It's just things that I was reading in the script. I was like, oh, I can recall that feeling, and just trying to be myself in those given circumstances. But yeah, there wasn't just one.
Okay, that's fair enough. Now, let's go to Sean with this one. Vampires, more often than not, are portrayed in this very sexual, erotic way. Anne Rice comes to mind, of course, with the Interview with a Vampire and whatnot. Is that an element that you wanted to embrace as well in Red Snow? Because as you watch this film, you sort of see like the little tributes that you pay to past horror films and in particular vampire films. So did you want to put in that sexiness of vampires, with these three as, in particular?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's sort of, tiptoeing in that sort of gothic romance sort of thing, because, she's Olivia is a, supernatural romance author, and those are like, these kind of scintillating erotic stories. And I think that that's kind of what sort of fuels this relationship between these two characters. It's sort of this will they, won't they thing, added with kind of the threat of, can you even trust this guy? And yet that, that it's the sort of thing that, oh, that adds like another level of excitement that he might kill me at any moment. That's sort of the whole stock and trade of that subgenre. And I think by making the main character someone who writes these stories and is very aware of the conventions of them, it's a way to kind of have fun with that and kind of pay tribute to it without like completely mocking it. I think that the main thing for me is I don't want to be like mean spirited about this genre of literature, because I think it's totally valid. And we never like really make fun of Olivia for pursuing this kind of writing. It's just very much the world that she's steeped in. So yeah, that was definitely the vibe we were going for. And I talked a lot with Gavin Murray, who's the cinematographer, about how we could sort of convey that, just with the whole mood of the piece. A lot of people tell me how the way that it's lit and colored is very striking. It's much brighter than, most modern horror films, which tend to go for the very underlit look. And we really wanted to play it heightened and kind of cheery and, lean into those like very, kind of paperback supernatural romance vibes as much as we could.
That's awesome. Now, Nico, we when the movie starts, we do not really see how you end up with Olivia. We're sort of told little bits throughout the movie, little clues on how you two ended up together and whatnot. Did that make it more difficult for you as an actor, and you had to build up your own backstory as to how these two ended up together in our house?
No, not really, because we have the script, and the script has a lot of detail in that, that isn't necessarily stuff that people got to see. I got the script months in advance, so I had a lot of time to be able to talk to Sean about that kind of stuff. If I think any of us had questions, we had a lot of opportunity to work with him on that. And he was very much open to us just kind of creating those backstories for our characters. But like I said, I don't think it's actually in the movie, but I have a body count of the number of people that I killed, which is...
No, that's not in the movie.
I think over 23,000 civilians and one horse.
Oh my
It's
God.
actually for less than a frame. You can see that on the iPad. It's when Olivia's flipping through. When you watch it at home, you might be able to pause in that moment. It's really brief, but
I think I'm gonna have to watch it again.
So I knew I'd killed a lot of people. I knew I'd killed a horse. I knew how long I'd been around, and I think watching a lot of vampire movies back to back, you can kind of pick up clues about characters based on elements in the script. Like, for example, Luke is really old, but he speaks like a modern human being.
Yeah.
So there's things like, I think he's very self-aware. He's probably watched Interview with a Vampire. He probably thought the vampires were pretty cool and tries to emulate that a little bit. So there are things like that
Like
I think...
Zach. People don't know what that is if you haven't watched the movie, but you'll find out.
Yeah. So I think he's self-aware, and I was able to pick up hints from the script that Sean left little breadcrumbs for us in the script for that, and then also we were able to discuss those things with him. So it's pretty clear cut for us.
Dennice, Sean broke quite a few stereotypes in regards to vampires. You having watched vampire films in the past, did you like how he went in different directions in regards to vampires in general?
Yeah. This was definitely more of a contemporary vampire take, I feel. And also Luke, Nico's character, is very, like he was saying, very self-aware, but also not self-loathing and sad and depressed and hating his circumstances. He's living it up and just talking about how amazing it, like, being a vampire is. And that kind of opens Olivia's eyes as well, of kind of thinking in that point of view and perspective, and how that can change how she attacks her writing with the vampire.
Laura, a lot of people, a lot of actors love playing the villain. They say it's fun. It's way more fun than playing the good guy. What are your thoughts on playing the villain in a film or a show or whatever?
I think it might be my favorite personally, because I'm just nothing like that in real life. So I get to really explore a whole other side of me. Because in real life, I definitely don't suck the blood out of people.
Really?
I don't know if I'll ever go back to good characters. I'm just kidding.
They are a lot more fun. I can totally see that. You get to step outside yourself and role play. What could be more fun than that? Sean, there's not a lot, but there's a good amount of blood and gore in this film. Was it tricky trying to balance that, not go too far? Because this is sort of a lighthearted vampire movie. Did it present a challenge for you?
In a way, I mean, it's a tricky sort of balancing act. Like, Melanie Leandro, who did all of the makeup effects, like she did not have a whole team. Like she did all of the practical gore and vampire effects in the movie. Did an incredible job. We had a lot of conversations about like how far are we going to go, and I think that what we sort of arrived at is we start the first kill happens off screen, and it sort of like eases you into this place of false comfort a little bit, because we gradually make the deaths more horrific as the movie goes on, kind of culminating in the decapitation of our producer Ulrich, and so it's I think the important thing when blending horror and comedy is the comedy should really come from just the characters and the situations, and you think of something like Shaun of the Dead, like the threat of the zombies is always real, like I mean, but the humor just comes from the characters. And I think by having a certain respect for the vampires, like if Jackie gets a hold of you, she's gonna kill you. I think as long as that threat is preserved, and you kind of amp it up and sort of escalate it as it goes, I think that was kind of our roadmap on this for and also I guess one thing that we worried about was alienating either the horror crowd that really is there for the gore, or the supernatural romance crowd, which isn't, and so it's kind of running the risk of like making nobody happy, because we kind of do both. But I think that I'm really happy with the balance that we struck on this.
I agree. I think you struck a very nice balance. Dennice, when it comes to the relationship between you and Nico on the screen, what in your mind, how do you explain your character's fascination with Nico's character? Is it really purely selfish, wanting to get an inside knowledge to write a book that is going to get published?
No, I mean, she really does. She is infatuated with Luke, and I created backstory of just asking myself questions of like why vampires in general. And I just felt a lot like maybe she only has her sister and her mom. There's no mention of her father, so I think her father not being there is kind of like her imagination just kind of goes in this whirlwind kind of. And it's also like with a vampire, how do you explain the unexplainable is something that you have no memory of. And I think the lure of being a vampire and being exotic and going somewhere like Romania, I think sometimes says she thinks maybe her father like misses them, but is in like this far away place, and he could come back if he wanted to, but there's something that's blocking him. So I think it kind of has some father issues. It ties with like romance and the desire of like being loved. And I think it's also kind of, Olivia finds it attractive. I think the reason why women love vampires and that whole genre is because it's dangerous and sexy, like we were talking earlier, and also of just that uneasy unpredictability, and it kind of just gets you on your feet, and it's not the mundane, and I think that's what excites Olivia too, or how she finds him attractive in that, in all those different aspects.
Totally. Nico, by the end of the film, this part is not really given to us. It's up to viewer interpretation. I want to hear your interpretation. Do you think Luke developed feelings for Olivia, being a 400-year-old vampire, or has he become really good at manipulating people, and you still think he was manipulating Olivia at the end?
Well, we went back and forth about that, I think. Dennice and I discussing it. And I think, if I remember correctly, Sean kind of left that up to us to decide as well, internally. And I think it started out that way with the manipulation of I was basically playing with an animal playing with its food. But I think Olivia as a character is so unique, and also, you know, in the lore of vampires, I mean, they're treated as monstrous and treated as villains by default, and so it is unusual for a character like Olivia or a person like Olivia to care. And I mean, she's in danger pretty much the entire movie, but is happily letting her guard down and have conversations with this deadly creature. And I think that's probably the first time in 400 years that he's been treated that way and treated more like a human and less like a monster. So I think he does let his guard down and he does develop feelings for her, even though it is kind of an unlikely scenario. It is, that's why we're seeing it, is it's this, you know, luck of the draw meeting of these two people.
Yep. And that's what at least that's what I wanted to believe as well, that in the third act, in the end, that Luke was actually being sincere and honest with Olivia. Now, Laura, when it comes to Jackie, did you see any emotional vulnerabilities in your character? Like, do you feel like the character was putting on a little bit of an act to sort of guard, even as vampires, they have their fears, they have their insecurities. Did you see any of that in your character, Jackie?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. She was, she had a very unhealthy, controlling relationship with Luke. And the fear of losing that and getting the validation that she does through controlling him was definitely real. I think that I felt that very much when, you know, talking about him or to him, that I was actually, you know, hurt more than I was as angry. But I, you know,
and that leads me
I could just kill him and find another, but you know, where's the fun in that?
That leads to another interesting question, Laura. Do you think Jackie and Luke, you know, had something going on together, and maybe Jackie felt jealous that here comes Olivia and Luke might be falling for her?
The choice that I made was that I was working on getting him to actually have feelings for me instead of forcing him to have feelings for me. And that I felt like I was getting close to somewhere with that. And then here comes this muggle to ruin everything.
Sean, when you were writing this, did you know that you were going to direct as well?
Oh yeah, like, you know, I'm selfish. This was a directorial vehicle for me, just as it was an acting vehicle for Dennice and Nico. Like, I mean, you know, I had tried to, you know, have my screenplays optioned and directed by other people. I'd gone that route. I'd tried other, you know, projects, and just, you know, nothing was taking. And so, like, this was kind of, you know, kind of like making a clean slate and just saying, like, these are the people I want to work with. This is where I want to shoot. And like, these, you know, and kind of just like finding a way to just get it done and like get it financed and get made. And so I think honestly, part of it is just, you know, it's not that I thought I was like the best person to direct this material, is more just like, this is the way it can actually get done. You know, this is the way it isn't just like another screenplay that sits on the shelf. It's like something that can be realistically executed. And luckily, like, there was just a really good team that like in place that, you know, brought it to life.
Do you think that influences your writing, knowing that you're going to direct it, and I don't know if the right word is hinder your writing, knowing that you're going to be there directing when you get to this scene, and it may make you tone down a little bit of what you're writing, knowing that you may face challenges when you get behind that camera?
Honestly, I think my writing is more influenced by producing and editing, like because I know we're like I know kind of what the limitations are for the budget. Like I knew going in this would be mostly single location. It would be at this cabin that we had access to. Like a lot of it was reverse engineered from what we kind of already had because that way we could take the scant resources that we had and like really put them into the things that matter, like having the effects amazing and at the look of the film itself and the sound mix and the color and all of these things that kind of suck up resources. So like I wasn't very intimidated by the directing side of it, because so much of directing is just casting amazing actors and talking to them, and I think that I think. And then as far as the editing goes, it's like it kind of helped me to be my own editor because I kind of knew how to piece these things together in the blocking and the staging. And I kind of, when I shot listed the movie with Gavin, I sort of knew that it would all cut together because it kind of already was that way on the page.
Sweet. Dennice, it seems like you guys had a lot of fun on the set filming this. Is that how it was? Did you guys all get along? Was it a lot of fun? Was there a lot of joking around? Describe what the feeling was when the cameras were not rolling.
Oh man, it was Nico, Laura, Melanie, the makeup artist, as well as Sarah, the costume designer, and we had Emily who was doing lighting. We all shared a cabin together. And actually Melanie did not, but one of the days we had the whole crew come and visit our cabin, and it was like our free day, and we just had like a bunch of Nerf guns, and we just had like a huge Nerf battle with like the whole cast and crew, and it was pretty intense. Like we were just like hiding against the walls and like going down, and that was probably like the best, like funnest days that we had off set on our free day. But yeah,
you guys went sledding too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did, and we went on the little was it like a spawn or like those
hot springs?
Yeah. That was a fun time.
The location seems amazing. Laura, was it as amazing as what we saw on the screen where you guys shot this?
Oh, yeah. It was even better. I mean, in real life, you're seeing so much more with your eyes. And there was a couple days that it snowed, and it was just gorgeous, beautiful powder coming down. And Tahoe's, it's gorgeous.
Yeah. I've been there. It is gorgeous. Sean, when it did come to shoot in Tahoe, did the weather cooperate with you in regards to like the snow, how you wanted the exterior to be portrayed, with the amount of snow? Here's a cabin in the middle of the woods. How did that all work out?
Yeah, it's funny. That's the one thing you can't really plan for. We shot listed the whole movie. We prepped everything, but there were days when it was just unseasonably warm, and we would have to sort of shuffle things around. Like, okay, we're doing interiors instead of exteriors today, or we can't point the camera that direction because there's no snow in that direction. And I'll never forget. It was the first day of the second week of filming. And there was nowhere to hide. We absolutely needed snow on the ground because it's where Dennice is chased through the woods by Alan. It's an entire day of exteriors where we're shooting basically 360 degrees. Like you see nothing but white powder as far as the eye can see. And just majestically, that was the biggest snow day, is like when we needed it. Because I don't know exactly what we would have done had it not snowed that day. I guess we would have I don't know. I'm scared to think what we would have done.
Well,
but
I'm glad the weather cooperated.
Yeah, and we just got some. And in a way, it was almost too much snow. Yes, we got like the beautiful shots of, I know that was Dennice's hardest day because she was dragging Alan, who's like a buff dude, like through the snow on a little sled. And like it looks amazing in the movie because there's like the little snowflakes collecting on her hair, But it was a hard day for sure, working in those conditions all day long. And my producer Ulrich was like shuttling out like soup, and he'd set up like a little tent with a propane heater. And between takes, Sarah would throw big jackets on people. So, it was kind of balancing like keeping people safe and comfortable with like let's shoot as much awesome snow stuff as possible, while the weather's cooperating.
As a director, having a cast and crew in these cold conditions, beautiful as they may be, did you do anything special to keep everybody's morale high, spirits, keep everybody motivated? Did you feel that as your responsibility?
Yeah, I think a big thing that I did, along with the production team, was just kind of like letting everyone know, if you agree to do this movie, you're basically going to camp. If that's going to be the vibe. Like, you don't get to go home at night. You're living either on the set, like a lot of us just bunked in the cabin, Olivia's cabin, or Vernon got to have a hotel room, but you're in one of several cabins and basically you're just there all the time, and as long as you're okay with that, you're gonna have like and understand that that's kind of we're gonna be like a tight little family. Then I think you'll have a fun time, and people found great ways to entertain themselves. I mean, Dennice mentioned the Nerf fights. Lots of board games, lots of drinking, we definitely found a way to keep morale high between the shooting days, and it was just a very like it was an extremely challenging shoot. I mean, as all like low budget horror films are, but
it sounds like you guys
especially
had a
with the
blast.
elements. But yeah, I think that we all, made the most of it, and we came out as friends. So clearly, no bridges burned.
We are almost out of time. I do want to ask you, Nico, in regards to your character, Luke, in this movie, when people walk away from watching this, do you want them to view your character more in a human aspect, or just a bloody vampire killer?
Man, I mean, I hope they would see me more as just a bloody vampire. I was surprised by how many people aligned with my character by the end of the movie, because that was not an intention, I'd say, of mine. But yeah, I mean, I hopefully a little more complex than just a bloodthirsty beast. But other than that, I'll leave it up to the audience's interpretation.
For me, my interpretation was I definitely saw the humanity in this vampire. So that's my interpretation. Sean, we are out of time. Please let our audience know December 28th where they can watch Red Snow.
Yeah, you can. It'll be on DVD and VOD. It's already available to pre-order on Apple TV. And you can pre-order the DVD on Amazon. I think it's going to pop up on all your favorite video on demand places, Vudu, on cable. It'll be everywhere starting December 28th. And redsnowmovie.com will be updating you on all that as it becomes available.
The movie, guys, is fun. It's funny. It's gory, all blended together very nicely. Great job to all of you. I want to thank you, Dennice, Nico, Laura, Sean. This hour just flew by. Guys, again, check out the movie Red Snow. It's coming out December 28th on your video-on-demand platform of choice. And then Blu-ray and DVD, correct?
Yeah.
Just DVD, but
DVD.
But yeah,
DVD.
maybe a Blu-ray someday. But
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, thank you guys so much. Thank you to our audience who tuned in tonight. On behalf of me and the cast and crew of Red Snow, stay safe, stay walking. Good night, everybody.